Is do you think it's more important for humans to develop the tools or learn how to use the tools better? Like, how can we position ourselves to remain essential in a world where, intelligence is becoming democratized?
I feel like AGI has been overhyped. And so for a long time, there'll be a lot of things that humans can do that AI cannot. And I think in the future, the people that are most powerful are the people that can make computers do exactly what you want it to do. And so I think staying on top of the tools, some of us will build tools sometimes, but there are a lot of other tools that others will build that we can just use. But so people that know how to use AI to get computers to do what you want it to do will be much more powerful. Not worry about people running out of things to do, but people that can use AI will be much more powerful than people that don't.
Hey, so well, first of all, thank you so much. I have a huge respect for you, and I think that you're true inspiration for a lot of us. My question is about the future of compute. So as we move towards more powerful AI, where do you think that compute is heading? I mean, we see people saying, "Let's ship GPUs to space." Some people talking about nuclear power data centers. What do you think about it?
There's something I'm debating what I want to say in response to the last question about kind of AGI, about maybe I'll answer this and a little bit of the last question. So it turns out there's one framework you can use for deciding what's hype and what's not hype. I think over the last 2 years, there's been a handful of companies that hyped up certain things for promotional, PR, fundraising, influence purposes. And because AI was so new, handful of companies got away with saying almost anything without anyone fact checking them because the technology was not understood. So one of my mental filters is there's certain hype narratives that make these businesses look more powerful that's been amplified. And so, for example, this idea that AI is so powerful, we might accidentally lead to human extinction. That's just ridiculous. But it is a hype narrative that made certain businesses look more powerful, and it got ramped up and actually helped certain businesses' fundraising goals. AI is so powerful, soon no one will even have a job anymore. Just not true, right? But again, that made these businesses look more powerful, got hyped up. Or we are so powerful, so when the hype narrative, we're so powerful that by training a new model, we will casually wipe out thousands of startups. That's just not true. Yes, Jasper ran into trouble, small number of companies got wiped out, but it's not that easy to casually wipe out thousands of startups. AI needs so much electricity, only nuclear power is good enough for that. That wind, solar stuff, that's just not true. So I think a lot of this GPUs in space, I don't know, it's like, go for it. I think we have a lot of room to run still for terrestrial GPUs. But I think some of these hype narratives have been amplified that I think are a distortion of what actually will be done.
There's a lot of hype in AI and nobody's really certain about how we're going to be building the future with it. But what are some of the most dangerous biases or overhyped narratives that you've seen people talk about or get poisoned by that they end up running with that we should try to avoid or be more aware of and allow us to have a more realistic view as we are building this future?
So I think the dangerous AI narrative has been overhyped. AI is a fantastic tool, but like any other powerful tool, like electricity, lots of ways to use it for beneficial purposes, also some ways to use it in harmful ways. I find myself not using the term AI safety that much, not because I think we should build dangerous things, but because I think safety is not a function of technology, it's a function of how we apply it. So like electric motor, you can't, the maker of electric motor can't guarantee that no one will ever use it for an unsafe downstream task. Like using electric motor can be used to build a dialysis machine, electric vehicle can be used to build a smart bomb, but the electric motor manufacturer can't control how it will be used downstream. So safety is not a function of the electric motor, it's a function of how you apply it. And I think the same thing for AI. AI is neither safe nor unsafe. It is how you apply it that makes it safe or unsafe. So instead of thinking about AI safety, I often think about responsible AI because it is how we use it responsibly, hopefully, or irresponsibly that determines whether or not what we build with AI technology ends up being harmful or beneficial. And I feel like sometimes that the really weird corner cases that get hyped up in the news, I think just 1 or 2 days ago, there was a Wall Street Journal article about AI losing control of AI or something. And I feel like that article took corner case experiments run in a lab and, sensationalized it in a way that I think was really disproportionate relative to the lab experiment that was being run. And unfortunately, technology is hard enough to understand that many people don't know better. And so these hype narratives do keep on getting amplified. And I feel like this has been used as a weapon against open source software as well, right? Which is really unfortunate.
Thank you for your work. I think your impact is remarkable. My question is, as aspiring founders, how should we be thinking about business in the world where anything can be disrupted in a day? Whatever great moat, product, or feature you have can be replicated with vibe coding competitors in basically hours.
It turns out when you start a business, there are a lot of things to worry about. The number thing I worry about is, are you building a product that users love? It turns out that when you build a business, there are lots of things to think about. The go-to-market, channel, competitors, technology, mode, all that is important. But if I were to have a singular focus on one thing, it is, are you building a product that users really want? Until you solve that, it's very difficult to build a valuable business. After you solve that, the other questions do come to play. Do you have a channel to get to customers? What is pricing long term? What is your moat? I find that moats tend to be overhyped, actually. I find that more businesses tend to start off with a product and then evolve eventually into a moat. But consumer products, brand is somewhat more defensible. And if you have a lot of momentum, it becomes harder to catch you. But enterprise products, sometimes if you have maybe moat is more of a consideration if there are channels that are hard to get into enterprises. So I think, when AI Fund looks at businesses, we actually wind up doing a fairly complex analysis of these factors and writing a 2 to 6-page narrative memo to analyze it before we decide whether or not to proceed or not. And I think all of these things are important, but I feel like at this moment in time, the number of opportunities, meaning the amount of stuff that is possible that no one's built yet in the world, seems much greater than the number of people with the skill to build them. So definitely at the application layer, it feels like there's a lot of white space for new things you can build that no one else seems to be working on. And I would say, focus on building a product that people want, that people love, and then figure out the rest of it along the way, although it's important to figure out along the way.
Hi, Professor. Thanks for your wonderful speech. I'm an undergrad researcher from Stanford, and I think your metaphor in your speech is very interesting. You said the current AI tools are like bricks and can be built upon accumulation. However, so far it is difficult to see the accumulative functional expansion of the integration of AI tools because they often align on the stacking of functions based on intent distribution and are accompanied by dynamic problems of tokens and time overhead. So, which is different from static engineering. So, what do you think will be the perspective of a possible agent tool accumulation effect in the future?
But hey, just some quick remarks to that, right? You mentioned agent LM token cost. My most common advice to developers is to first approximation, just don't worry about how much tokens cost. Only a small number of startups are lucky enough to have users use so much of your product that the cost of tokens becomes a problem. It can become a problem. I've definitely been on a bunch of teams where the cost, users like our product, and we started to look at our Gen AI bills, and it was definitely climbing in a way that really became a problem. But it's actually really difficult to get to a point where your token usage costs are a problem. And for the teams I'm on, where we were lucky enough that users made our token cost a problem, we often had engineering solutions to then bend the curve and bring it back down through prompting, fine-tuning, USDSPI to optimize or whatever. And then what I'm seeing is that I'm seeing a lot of agentic workflows that actually integrate a lot of different steps. So for example, if you build a customer service chatbot, we'll often have to use prompting, maybe optimize some of the results using DSPI, build evals, build guardrails. Maybe the customer service chatbot needs RAG a part of the way to get information to feedback to the user. So I actually do see these things grow. But one tip for many of you as well is I will often architect my software to make switching between different building block providers relatively easy. So for example, have a lot of products that build on top of LLMs, but sometimes you point to a specific product and ask me which LLM are we using. I honestly don't know because we'll build up evals, and when there's a new model that's released, we'll quickly run evals to see if the new model is better than the old one, and then just switch to the new model if the new model does better on evals. And so the model we use week by week, sometimes our engines will change it without even bothering to tell me because the evals show the new model works better. So it turns out that switching costs for foundation models is relatively low, and we often architect our software. AI Suite is open sourcing that my friends and I worked on to make switching easier. Switching costs for the orchestration platforms is a little bit harder, but I find that preserving that flexibility in your choice of building blocks often lets you go faster, even as you're building more and more things on top of each other. So hope that
Thank
helps.
you so much.
In the world of education in AI, there are